Hello, buddy. Welcome back to Tin Man's Core Channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. Today, I'm reading my final chapter out of the Ghost of the Southern Mountains in Appalachia book by Nancy Robertson. It's called The Angel of Death. It takes place in mountains, South Carolina. So without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? Patty McCoy was chilled to the bone, but it was not the September night as much as the words she had just heard. Beware the cemetery gates, for they will bring death. She was terrified, for the gates of the cemetery were opposite to the McCoy house. The only light in the room came from the kerosene lamp. The witch woman's skin was seamed and leathery. One eye stared fiercely straight ahead, and the other veered off into space with a fiercely malevolent look. "I see you as a child full of joy," said the woman. "Then as a young girl, when you first met your husband, you wore a blue crocheted shawl the night he asked you to marry him. Isn't that so?" Patty nodded. "He's still a likely favored man, is he not?" Patty's eyes filled with tears at the thought of him sitting at sundown on the porch, his banjo in his lap, playing the tunes he loved. He had been ill for almost a year, and that was the reason she had come here for advice. Today, Bradley was to go to the hospital. "There is one thing you must never let happen," warned the old woman in her raspy voice, her thrust forward. "I know your home place well, and the gates of that cemetery are right across the road from it. When they take him to the hospital, don't you let them open that gate. If you do, he's going to die. For what's inside those gates will never rest until it gets him." Patty put her hand over her mouth to keep from screaming. People had always said that Patty, she ain't afeard of nothing. But now she was afraid. She put a 50-cent piece in the woman's hand and left. All she could think about was whether they had come yet to get Bradley. She had been gone for almost 2 hours. The witch woman had prepared bits of bone, feathers, roots before she would tell her what to do about Bradley. Patty had not sooner reached the edge of the woods and the open field across which she could see the house when she gave a shriek. In front of the porch was a small, dusty ambulance to take him to Louisville. She began to run. Her breath came fast and her heart pounded. She was halfway up the road to the house when the front door opened and two men bearing a stretcher with Bradley carried it down the front steps and placed it in the back of the ambulance. She screamed out at them, "Wait, don't take him, my Bradley, till I tell ye about the gate." The men looked at her strangely but waited. Now she stood beside them and for a moment was too breathless to warn them about what the witch woman had told her. She looked at Bradley lying so still on the stretcher, his face the color of putty. "Can ye hold him? Help him?" asked Patty. The ambulance driver, a tall, red-haired man with watery blue eyes, looked down at her expressionless and nodded. "Well, there ain't no turnaround up here," said Patty, "and when ye get that ambulance down to the road, whatever you do, don't open the gate of the cemetery to back in. Do you hear me?" Well, first of all, that witch woman is making her paranoid, and plus if she's telling the ambulance drivers about the cemetery, they'll probably think that she's nuts. The driver and his helper got in the ambulance, and Patty watched as they backed it down the narrow mountain trail. When they reached the road, they must have tried 3 or 4 times to back and cut sharp so the ambulance could head out. One of the men finally stood by the side of the road, hollering at the other, "If'n you just open that gate, we won't have no trouble." But Patty had taken down the shotgun from over the fireplace just as a precaution, run down the road after them, and now stood squarely in front of the gate. "Just find a way to get that ambulance turned around and go so she don't have no problems with you." The witch woman told her to not let anybody open the gate Stanley's going to be taken in, basically, to the grave a little early. The driver of the ambulance looked at her and at the shotgun, cut the wheels of the ambulance hard, and this time he made it. Patty stood with her back against the cemetery gate and watched the ambulance until it was out of sight. Then she turned and gazed down the road and up the hill toward the cemetery. It was dusk, and as she looked up towards the markers on the crest, she shuddered. What could possibly be up there that could harm her Bradley? A wind sprang up, rustling the tree leaves. It felt chilly for this time of year. Patty shivered and watched the shadows from the cypress trees begin to merge into the coming darkness. Then she turned and walked up the road toward home. Yeah, here's a picture of that gate. I don't see nothing menacing about it either. It just looks like a normal gate to me. But if somebody really believes in that story, if you open the gate and something would come out and grab her husband and take him, she would do anything just to make sure that it wouldn't happen. A week later, she went to town with Joe Hartley, and they brought Bradley back from the hospital in his old pickup truck. Bradley looked lots better and talked like he felt pretty good, but by the time he was jounced all the way home in the truck, Patty saw he was tired. He wouldn't lie down none, though, said he had to get out and hoe their fall garden. She saw he just needed to do something, so she let him be. Bradley acted like he was tired a lot of the time, and he was a little tetchy, which wasn't like him. Before, he always let her know he was sorry if he saw something he said discomforted her, but he didn't talk much now and seldom said anything about the future, like how he was going to buy the land next to theirs and clear it or build another room onto the small cabin, nor did he ever hug her about the waist as he used to and tell her she was still the likeliest favored girl he ever saw. Less than 2 months later, he was down in the bed again, so tired that the littlest thing seemed to make him too weak to lift his head. The doctor wanted him to go to the hospital, and Patty wanted to try to get him on the mend at home, but finally she agreed that he should go. She waited with Bradley holding his hand until the ambulance could get there. It was a large new ambulance this time, but the tall, white-faced, red-haired man got out with a little, short, chesty fellow who looked well able to handle a stretcher even with a big man on it. Patty pushed back a strand of hair that lay across her husband's forehead, and then with a jerky, self-conscious motion, bent down and kissed his cheek. The men put the stretcher in the back of the ambulance. Patty felt like she was going to cry, and turning, she went into the house. She heard the slam of the 2 doors as the men got in the front, and the quiet purr of the motor as the ambulance started backing down the road. Then she flung herself across the patchwork quilt on the old walnut bed, but she couldn't cry. Her chest hurt and began to heave. She lay there holding her arms tightly around her and shook, but no tears came. Suddenly she recalled the gate and what the witch woman had told her. She was out the door in an instant and running down the rutted trail that led from the house to the road when she saw the short, heavy-set man jump out of the ambulance and start for the gate. She screamed with all her might, but the wind only blew the words back at her. The gate swung open, the ambulance backed in and was out and gone. The autumn sunlight struck its massive chrome front and nearly blinded her. She ran toward the gate, pulled it closed, and then leaned on it, looking toward the hill where the bodies of relatives, friends, and parents were buried. She had not been able to keep the gate closed even after what the witch woman had told her. Patty leaned against it, feeling as if she was going to faint. Now the wind sprang up with a vengeance. The leaves that had been green and tender 2 months before, when she had stood at this gate, made the harsh, rustling sounds of sandpaper rubbing together like the eerie rasp of the witch woman's voice saying over and over, "Don't let them open the cemetery gate. Don't let them open the cemetery gate. Don't let them open it." The voice within her grew more and more shrill until she felt that she was floating on a sea of madness. Bradley, Bradley. She knew she had failed him. On top of the hill stood a small knot of people huddled together to escape the biting wind of the winter day. It was the graveyard prayer for Bradley McCoy, who had died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. Patty stood near the grave, head bowed. She was convinced that something had come out of the cemetery the 3 days before, some dark, stalking thing that refused to be thwarted, and it had claimed Bradley McCoy. I figured that was going to happen. Demonic entity or specter saw that there was an ill man in the back of an ambulance and just grabbed him just to take him away from his body. And here's a picture. I don't know if you can see it that well, but right there looks like one of the apparitions that she claims to have seen. Man, that is a creepy story. But I finally finished this chapter out of this book, and I'm not going to be reading it no more. So that's good. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more book reading content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Quarter channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and I said that's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.